When your back is against a wall, you can always count on X runaway members to bail you out of trouble. Whether it's disabling the enemy team piece by piece or stalling the cart against the odds, Yaki and Gangnam Jin are able to make implausible plays. After winning map 1 against the Houston Outlaws, the Florida Mayhem quickly found their luck turn as they were unable to push the payload to even the first checkpoint on Havana. The only chance for Florida to get their second map in a row on the board was to achieve what few teams in the Overwatch League have done. Once they had been full held, the Mayhem had to dig their heels into the first segment of Havana and complete what's known as a fuller hold. Unfortunately for Florida, their initial defense was swiftly overran, and now there was just one last chance for the Mayhem to stay alive on map 2. The Houston Outlaws push forward aggressively and don't give the Mayhem much time to think. On the low ground by the cafe, Blase utilizes his Deadeye to pressure the Mayhem, while Meko dives into the backline attempting to 1v1 Saya player who was on a sniper's perch with an angle very dangerous to the Outlaws. Neither of these things go as planned, however, as Yaki swiftly blocks off any effective line of sight with his ice wall, and Meko's trajectory is disrupted by the whip shot from Chris. Meko, however, stays in the backline and commits to his own objective, waiting for the necessary 3 seconds and then flying up to Saya player's position. However, that 3-second delay is more than long enough for Gargoyle to get a read on his opposing D.Va player, and with the defense matrix and boosters of his own, follows Meko up to the high ground where Gargoyle and Saya player easily dispatch Meko's D.Va mech. This allocation of defensive resources, however, isn't without cost, as when both the defense matrix from Gargoyle, as well as the armor pack from Chris on the low ground, have to go on to Saya player to keep the Star Widow player alive. This means that none of the defensive peel can be committed to Karayan, who is by the payload and taking heavy pressure from the rest of the Outlaws. In many fights, a dead main tank with 6 players technically alive and healthy for Houston would mean a simple win for the Outlaws. But Yaki has other plans in mind. A mere moment before his main tank expires, Yaki throws out the Blizzard into the enemy lines. Now, for the moment, Houston stalls out a bit and their players get split up. And this is where the fight gets hard to keep track of, so let's break it down into 2 segments. First, we'll discuss Branch A, where Jexay is speed boosting Raucus into the backline of the Mayhem onto Gangnam Jin, believing they can dispatch the enemy support. With the speed boost, they are easily able to catch up to him and begin damaging the Ana player. Chris, however, is paying attention, and when the push comes onto his support duo, out goes the armor pack to keep Gangnam Jin alive long enough for Chris to go over and physically protect him. However, with Raucus and Jexay still assaulting and Blase in the cafe taking pot shots at the Mayhem supports, Chris quickly finds himself nearly overwhelmed. This is where Gangnam Jin, now relieved of damage pressure, can shine. First, he identifies the largest damage dealer of the 3, Blase, and lands a sleep dart onto the enemy McCree, temporarily disabling him. Then, to give the Mayhem the advantage in what has become a support line 2v2, Gangnam Jin turns and lands a biotic grenade at the feet of Raucus and Jexay, preventing them from healing themselves with the Brigida Inspire and the Lucio Healing Aura. Finally, with both the enemy damage and healing disabled, Gangnam Jin gives the nano boost to Chris. The tide has now fully turned for the Mayhem support line. With the anti-healing debuff applied and the rally running out, Jexay turns and heads for the hills. Gargoyle collapses onto the Brigida from the Outlaws alongside Chris, and Raucus is eliminated. Now Gargoyle, Chris, and Gangnam Jin can turn their attention back towards the payload. This is where we move to the second branch of this fight. With Karayan dead, and the payload meters from where the Houston Outlaws would claim victory on Havana, Yaki knows that first and foremost, his job is to safeguard the objective and prevent its movement. For the first few moments, Yaki can sit safely in the realm of his Blizzard, waiting to pick off the enemy May of Hydration, who used his Cryo Freeze to escape the freeze effect of Yaki's Blizzard. Hydration is no fool though, and once he exits the Cryo Freeze, he's able to utilize his own Ice Wall to delay his death. He is still frozen by Yaki, however, and is in desperate need of assistance. Enter the Outlaws main tank. At first, Muma actually pushed through the cafe and was seemingly ready to join Jexay and Raucus in the first branch of the fight we discussed. Seeing Hydration in trouble and trusting his supports, however, Muma rotates over and prevents Yaki from eliminating Hydration with the barrier field from Reinhardt. Now with Gargoyle walled off and leaving the area of the payload to join the fight in the backline, Yaki is left in a 2v1. But it's a 2v1 that he will gladly take, as he has done the mental math and realized if he can just stall Muma and Hydration here, then the rest of the Mayhem have an advantage in their fight. At the last possible moment, Yaki uses one of the greatest stalling abilities in Overwatch, Mei's Cryo Freeze, to keep himself alive and all the while preventing the payload from advancing. Now both branches of the fight have completed and are converging on the objective. Seeing the enemy team full steam towards him, Muma lays down the Earth Shatter from behind the safety of the payload in an attempt to stun up to 4 members of the Mayhem: Yaki, Chris, Gargoyle, and possibly even Gangnam Jin. While that sounded great in theory in Muma's head, I'm sure, the timing and placement of this particular Earth Shatter leaves a bit to be desired. A millisecond too early, Yaki is still in the Cryo Freeze when the stun would have hit him. Chris is easily able to throw up the barrier shield of the Brigitte to block the ultimate, and both Gargoyle and Gangnam Jin find themselves outside the area of effect. The Houston Outlaws' last surefire way of turning the tide is now gone, and the Mayhem capitalize. Yaki, in the fraction of the second after he leaves his Cryo Freeze, doesn't know who may or may not have been caught by the enemy main tank in the Earth Shatter, so he throws up his Ice Wall immediately. This forces Muma, who still has to try and remove Florida from the payload, around the side of the wall and into a desperation charge. Chris is easily able to outplay this and uses the Shield Bash to counteract the charge, stunning Muma in a vulnerable position. Yaki follows up one stun with another onto Muma and freezes him, while Saya player picks off Blase with the help of Gargoyle, who has used the boosters to remove Blase from cover. With Muma doomed and the rest of Houston in shambles, the Florida Mayhem can clean up the attacking team and hold steadfast in their defense for the remainder of the time. The Mayhem complete the fuller hold and keep their momentum throughout the series. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you liked the video, there is a button for that down below, and make sure to subscribe. Can the members of Second Generation Runaway continue to impress this season? Let us know what you think, and while you're at it, check out some more of our videos with Elo Hell Esports.